Welcome to the Possibility in the Universe. I am so delighted to be joined with my friend and co-host, Rivky Gross. Today, we are going to be talking about the possibility of business as pleasure. I just want to say that one more time for effect. Business as pleasure.
Yeah.
So excited about this topic.
Yeah.
I just want to say that this is the embodiment of business as pleasure. Because first of all, this is not necessarily even a business per se, but maybe it will become one day. But to be in this conversation, to be in this podcast, to have a dream and to surrender into it and to just have so much enjoyment by unpacking ideas and cracking up at ourselves and concepts in general is just so fun. What a cool thing. What a cool thing to be able to allow ourselves permission to pursue something that's coming into our field and trust and believe in it, and B, to be in conversation with a really good friend and to create momentum around it and to talk about ideas and concepts and to crack up about ourselves. Most of all. What pleasure. Thank God.
What a pleasure. What a pleasure. So when I think about business as pleasure, I think about what it's not. And there are so many things that it's not, mostly around what work feels like for many people, whether it's them growing up with their parents working or for themselves. There are so many people who have grown up in this idea of, oh, I'm so happy to be on vacation, or I'm so happy when it's the weekend, or, work was such a drag this week. I need to work. Something about work is a sacrifice. I need to bring in money. Work is not fun. Life is fun. I have to somehow put my life on pause to have fun. And the truth is that business as pleasure is life as pleasure, because I've been, thinking about this a lot. That is not only for people I just totally went off on a totally other tangent than we just ever discussed.
It's totally fine.
That is not even just a business thing. It's also a life thing, right? It's okay. When my kids get older, then I will have pleasure. When I'm in my next life experience, when I don't have all my responsibilities, when I don't have all my obligations, when I don't have to take care of everything or everyone, then it's pleasurable. And I think that is the myth that we're here to kind of debunk and share our own experience of how we would love to help spread a new wave of something new, a new possibility in the universe around work, even if it means staying in the same exact job that you're in. What is the widening of the perspective? What is the possibilities in the universe around a new way to approach pleasure and work?
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's curious to understand what is my relationship, or what are the things that I tell myself in relationship to business and work? What is my work ethic? What do I value in myself in the way that I relate to work? And is it true and is it necessary? So I feel like the introduction to the relationship with business and work comes from what you were exposed to as a kid in your home, right? So for me, my dad had a blue collar job. He's a plumber. And so what it looked like and what I value so deeply, because as a kid, you idolize your parents and what they do is the best and who they are is amazing and how they navigate. And also the cool thing is that I loved the unique job that my dad had, different from other kids in school or other, when you shared, what does your mother do or father do for work? My dad's job was so unique in that he was a plumber. So there was something that I loved because he was set apart, even from his brothers. My dad has 7 brothers. And he's the only one that became a plumber. All of them became rabbis. So there was something that I loved about it that was so unique. And also, I remember as a kid, he had this big, he still does because he's still a plumber, but he had this big orange soap dispenser in the bathroom with this massive pump on it. And inside, and I've used it sometimes because I was so curious about it, inside of it, it had a thick, coarse sand that he would scrub his hands with when he got back from work to take off the oily residue that was left on his hands from touching pipes and all the stuff during the day so he can clean himself before he came and sat down at the table. And the satisfaction of the sigh that came out of his body when he finally sat down for dinner, and it was, oh, something about this working hard with my body and with my entire being was the equivalent and valuable to what it means to be satisfactory and what it means to really work for a living. And so it's definitely something I emulated, and I implemented that into my own life of working hard being something that was really important in order to really be in business in the way that it was the best way to be, because you assume that the way that you grow up with is the best way to be. And so I took on this idea of working hard being the thing that it needs to be in order to have what I need to have, or in order to put bread on my table, which now, of course, I've come to learn new ways of being. But it's really interesting to consider, where did my original idea of my work ethic and my relationship to business and my relationship to acquiring what I need come from? And it doesn't mean that it was necessarily bad in any kind of way. It just gets this opportunity to be curious about where it comes from and where we are continuing to live with some kind of imprint that's inside of us, where we then have the opportunity to be, hey, yes, I do appreciate it. I did love it. But is that really the way I want to continue to navigate in my own experience and spaciousness around that? Yeah, I was going to say different from, and I have a friend who I talk to pretty often with, and she was saying in her house, the conversation around the dinner table was always stressful around money, always not sure if there was going to be enough, always really intense about it, always feeling deeply insecure that she can ask for her needs because the pressure of what was needed was not available. And it was very obvious because it was being discussed at the dinner table. So she grew up with this, with learning that, number one, she won't be provided for because it's evident that there's not enough here. And so she's going to have to work really hard to get what she needs by herself. And she started working at a really young age to start making money so that she can have the things that she needs, because she was afraid to even ask for the thing that she needs because it was so evident on at the dining room table, and probably not so conscious to the parents that they realize how the kids take it on. But kids take on the burden. If they don't feel secure and you're having a discussion with your wife about, I don't know how I'm going to pay the mortgage, they're like, oh my God, how could I ask for a new pair of shoes that have a hole in it? I'm going to have to go babysit so that I can get the shoes that I need. And how that insecurity of being able to be provided for followed her into her life, where she became a workhorse to ensure the illusion of security that she will constantly have what she needs, and more so just in case, because that just in case was never there in her life. And how also, even moving into a marriage, it became hard to allow herself to soften into the feminine role of receiving, because she didn't know that she can trust that her husband will be able to provide for her, because the dinner table conversation in her home with her father was not the case. It taught her, don't trust that anybody can take care of you. You are the only one, and work as hard as you need to ensure that, and to chase the illusion of security that she understood that money will bring. Because the opposite of what she actually experienced was insecurity in relationship to money. So if we don't have money, we can't be secure, which means if I do have money, I will be secure. So I will kill myself to make sure I have funds in my bank so that I can feed the illusion that I'm secure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting thing, because so much of business is so little about money. And, people often ask me about abundance, because that's something that I speak about. And it's, if my partner doesn't have the same level of desire of abundance as me, then how do I help him? And I know that what they're saying is, if my partner has a different relationship with money as me, how do I change their relationship with money to be the same as mine? And so much of business is seen around money, when business as pleasure is not only about money. It's about abundance in time. It's about abundance in creativity. Are you enjoying actually what you're doing? Are you bringing in money that's supporting your family to have peace, but are you bringing in money in a way that's supporting your family values? are you bringing money in a way that's supporting your true abundance, which is to be able to be present inside of your life and be able to really take ownership of your life and make your life matter, not only after you make the certain amount of a quota of money that you need to pay your bills or beyond that, but in every single moment. And there's this client that your story reminded me of this, that has a lot of money, this very wealthy man. And he had the possibility, he was a millionaire, and he had the possibility of selling his business for close to $1 billion. I remember I was working with him at the time. It was a very big, and we were able to we did some really amazing energy unlocking work, and we were able to, and he really invested himself in the process. And he was able to get to this place with his consciousness where that was a possibility that was available to him. And he almost didn't, he ended up doing it, but I just took you to the end of the story. But there was a moment right before it closed out where he almost sabotaged the whole thing, where he's like, forget it. He had the possibility of retiring himself and his family for this huge, massive shift in his life. And he was saying all these kinds of things. I really want this company, even though just a couple weeks before he wanted to sell it so badly and do more creative things and create his art. But like, the pressure, and we went inside, and what came through was that he grew up in a home that was very financially insecure. But there are homes that are financially insecure and secure, plugged into God, plugged into home, plugged into life. And there are homes that are financially insecure where people really don't take he saw his parent really not take responsibility for his life. He saw that his parent had specific potential and specific needs that his family needed. And he saw his parent say, I can't. He saw his parent say, it's not possible for me. He saw his parent allow himself to become homeless because he saw that his parent had possibilities that he wouldn't take, because the way he saw it was that his parents' ego, his father's ego, was so strong that he didn't want to take any job that he didn't want. So he kept saying no to different jobs. And then because he only wanted to do what he wanted to do. And then he put his family into a space of insecurity. And he was able to find all the ways to understand that there's nothing wrong with his parent, and he was able to not judge him, but he wasn't able to release the fear, even though he was in such a different financial situation. He still felt energetically in the same place. He literally held the fear that if he would sell his business for $1 billion, he would be homeless. It was not reality. $1 billion is more money than some people in entire cities or countries have. And he really truly felt that inside of his being, which helps me see over and over again that abundance has nothing to do with money and everything to do with our perspective on our life and our ability to not see our life through the lens of our trauma, but through the lens of our actual reality. And I know that's a more intensive story, right? That's a very dramatic story, but all of us in our own life, we're shaped by things that we don't even know with our mind that we're shaped by. And we, at the beginning of when I was growing a team, especially over the past few years, there were times where I wasn't as assertive as really, every team needs a backbone. They need somebody who knows what they want. Every person who works on a team needs to know that they are being given enough work and that they have boundaries around when it comes in and when it comes out. And the reason why I wasn't assertive wasn't because I didn't care. It was because I saw in certain ways in my own childhood where different adults around me were working for people who were not kind to them, who were assertive to the point of yelling, or to the point of making other people around them feel really bad about themselves. And I so badly didn't want to be that I became almost like the contrast of that, which is its own form of not like integrated or wholesome leadership. And I remember different people who, thank God, I have such good mentorship in my life who really are able to guide me. And those are the questions they asked me. Why is this area not flowing? And it brought me back to, I am not living in reaction to the way my soul wants to be. I'm living in reaction to who I don't want to be. And that is very often, that's the energy of obligation, right? It's like, I need to make sure not to be abusive, or I need to make sure not to be homeless, or I need to make sure not to be confrontational, or I need to make sure not to be seen as selfish, whatever it looks like for each of us, whatever's that life-threatening thing that lives inside of us that has nothing to do with reality, because we could have, like I said before, $1 billion in our bank account and we can still be afraid of homelessness.
Yeah. It makes me think about also, as an entrepreneur, the original motivation underneath your desire to create what's I'm looking for, the conduit to receive, right? So there could be, I mean, and in the way of pleasure, it could be because I want to be creative, because I want to be able to share, because I want to make impact, because I want art to be alive in this universe, which is a really beautiful way. But oftentimes, more often than not, it's because I want to prove that I'm valuable.
Yeah.
Because I want to show them, whoever it was in your life that said you would amount to nothing. I want to show them that I could be someone, and I could be the one who's able to bring in more money than they've ever been able to bring in their entire life. And so oftentimes I'm looking for the pleasure in my life, right? I created
I want to be someone, or I want to be.
But I want to be someone. Yes, I want to be someone. I want to
feel like
prove
nothing. I want to be someone.
Yeah, yeah. And somehow through this, I will create that identity. Somehow through this will become the way that I prove myself, that I am someone, that I have some sort of physical manifestation of taking up space in the way that I desire. But ultimately, I find, and I don't know, I wonder about this, it's the curiosity would be is, am I experiencing pleasure? Right? Because if the work that I'm doing is not actually pleasure, then the curiosity would be is, where have I manipulated myself to believe that this is going to create my worthiness, or that this is what it rides on in order to take up space in this world? Because when that's the underpinning of what it is, it doesn't really create a foundation for real pleasure. It just creates a chase towards the idea that I have to keep proving, that I have to keep showing for, that I have to keep showing them. As opposed to, and it could be that's the beginning, that's the original motivation, which is totally fine because we're all going to be wherever we are. But I think that if we're experiencing like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm doing the things that I desire to do, I'm taking up space in the way that I want to take up space, and yet somehow it doesn't feel like pleasure. Yet I come home and I'm so overburdened by my own creation that I created, and I come home and I can't sleep and I wake up over the night because I'm so afraid of this or that, or if I forgot something or whatever. I think that's a beautiful opportunity and invitation to get curious about what is the foundation that I built this on. And in that discovery, if we find that we were trying to prove something to someone, now we can go to that little child self that was inside there and be the adult that they never had, and be able to comfort that part of ourselves and to say that you're here and that you matter and this business matters and what you're doing is beautiful and your impact is amazing, and whatever that is for you, whatever that conversation is for you, to be able to shift that foundation into something that's more aligned so that you can allow yourself the pleasure to be in the thing that you've been working towards, be in the thing that you've, blood, sweat, and tears have been infused into that. But it doesn't need to be blood, sweat, and tears anymore. It really doesn't. Yeah. It's when I change that foundation and I change the underpinning of the belief of what it's going to mean if I hold this status, or if I do this kind of business, or if I make this kind of money, then I get to actually hold that status, have that much money and all those things, but it be in pleasure.
Beautiful. Yes. And that, I feel like that's one perspective to spot where we might feel like that misalignment or that mismatch. And I want to delve into that topic a little bit more because I think it's really so deep. So many people's identities are based on their work, right? Even in our culture, you go to a networking event, you go to a dinner, you go to a wedding. What do you do? Right? that's one of the first questions that we ask one another. What do you do? What do you do? What is it that you do?
Yeah.
And so it's built into our culture. And I think that there's this really big misunderstanding that finally, when we're grown up, our business will create our identity. But then what happens? I want to speak about the challenges of that. So sometimes when it works out for some time, it's really great because it feels like we get to plug into this identity when it's working, right? The thing is making money, we're having a certain amount of fun. It feels creative, it feels vital, like it's good. It works for some time. But you can't build something that works fully sustainably from an energy source that isn't tapped into God or your soul. So eventually something's gonna start to dismantle a bit. There's gonna be a hole, like whether it's a relational hole, whether it's financial leak, whatever it is, or whether you're like, oh my God, why am I in this business for 10 years and I'm still making only this amount of money? Or why am I not able to get more ideas? Or why is it starting to feel blah? I love this work. Why is it starting to feel blah? All of that. So last night at the Medicine Without Medicine journey that I led in my home, there was quite a few women there who are practitioners of healing arts of different kinds, like therapists, psychologists, whatever, different kinds of body workers. It was an interesting group. There was a lot of people like that. And, you know, I talk a lot about shining your light and being yourself and like showing up in the world as you. This specific woman was telling me, I don't want to advertise my services so much because I still see how my services are not me being in service. There's some kind of subtle manipulation where like I'm feeding my own ego by helping other people heal. And I'm so hyper aware of it, but I don't know how to shift it yet. So I get that it's my identity, but I don't know how to yet be a channel. So I'm in this weird space in between where I get that it's my identity, but how do I shift it now? Like, how do I acknowledge that it's like with this true humility that it's really not me? And they're like, and a few of them were like, that's why I'm here. Because I see that's something that you are able to embody, and I want to be able to receive that frequency. And I said, you know what? Watch what happens tonight. And one of the women there, she was one of the therapists, and at the beginning, she was having such a difficult time with my process of taking responsibility and being the medicine. And I saw it. She was like, I hear what you're saying, but I don't get it. There was this, and I did not spend an hour with her trying to convince her. I just moved on. And then she went into her process, and she was like, I saw her. She was starting to struggle, and I did not save her. I only supported her when she started to support herself. And I saw her move towards self-love and release and allowing herself to move energy. And at the end of the night, she said, I fully understand in my body two things. One, that I am the medicine fully. And two, that beyond anything that I do, I am. I am my soul. And I had a huge ego death there on the carpet because I was struggling with this loss of identity, and you didn't help me create an illusion of a new identity by you again saving me from that, but you let me have that ego death. And then now I am a person who's self-generated. And she shared that. She left really glowing. And I was like, thank you, Hashem. That's it. It's thank you, Hashem. And someone was telling me the other day that the Yanuka, who's a Kabbalist in Jerusalem, in Yerushalayim, people come and share with him all kinds of miracles all the time around what happened from spending time with him and things like that. And he says this, he goes, Hodu Hashem ki tov. And then all the people around go, Kilo lam chasto. And then he says it twice, Hodu Hashem ki tov, Kilo lam chasto. And what is he saying? Yeah, I'm a conduit. Like, God it means praise God, basically, that sentence. God is full of miracles. God is full of kindness. And I think that there's something really important of when we can unplug from our identity being and our wholeness coming from anything that we do or anything that we don't do, then what happens is that we become truly of service. Because we're not anymore doing it to fulfill a hole inside of ourselves. And how do we switch that over? Nobody can do that for us. It's something that we need to lay on the floor and close our eyes with and reckon with ourselves. We must come to that place eventually, with time, with compassion, where we really, every single person needs to have that moment where they come face to face with their very own soul. And that moment is not something that somebody could do for them. Of course, if you bring yourself to spaces that are soul based, that help you drop in, you follow your soul to those kind of places, to those kind of people, of course it might help you. But ultimately, you can take something, what does it say? You can take
You take the horse to the water, but you can't make them drink.
You can't make them drink.
No.
And you cannot. And that's really important. Like remembering only you can choose every single day to remember who you are before anything that society or your own parents or anything else has told you that you are.
Yeah, and I think that's so empowering because the power's in our hands then. Sometimes I could be like, oh my gosh, I'm the one to blame. Or we can kind of take it into that kind of context. Yeah. Or we could just be like, wow, the power is in my hands and the shift is right here. And the invitation is here because I've become conscious of it. Now that I'm aware that I've been riding this idea that this is going to prove that I'm worthy. And I'm recognizing that's a story I've been carrying for so long to prove it to myself, where really the essence of my being is worthy just because I am the child of God. Now that I'm aware of that, now I can take divine action towards embodying that in the ways that I can receive pleasure from the thing that I'm experiencing. And I think that's such a powerful way to know that the power is in our hands. Business as pleasure is our choice. And the work that we get to reckon with, like you said, like on the carpet or wherever you find yourself when that moment of reckoning is there, this is your opportunity to alchemize the algorithm, to shift it so it feeds you a different story now. It's, Instagram or all these social media things, they feed you what you want to see. So whatever story you're telling yourself, that's what you're going to keep proving to yourself, right? I tell them like, I need shoes. Suddenly every single ad that's showing up in my algorithm is I need shoes. But if I said I needed something different, it would show me something different. And so what we're doing is by divine action, we're alchemizing our algorithm to feed us something new in the way that we relate now to our business, where business is no more hard work, sucking the life out of us, but actually it's soul nourishing and it's delightful and it's something that I look forward to and it's something that I love and it's something that I spend most of my day doing because most of us work for a substantial amount of time in our daylight hours, but it's so much pleasure that I receive in that and so much fun that I get to have and so much expression and interaction. And when I am that person, the I am inside of all of it, then I get to shine that light onto all the people that I meet along my way and offer this medicine, which is myself, in my humility, when I got over what I thought I needed to be in order to be this person. And I really am the person that I am, which is the channel for whatever medium it is. It could be making flowers, and it could be a therapist, and it could be a plumber, and it could be someone who's a CPA. All of us are channels. All of us are conduits for a business that is pleasure. If we make the choices, if we reckon with the invitations that we receive, which is just so beautiful. Like what an opportunity in this universe. So another part of this, before we jump into how do we, is I think this false idea that if I don't beat myself up about it, I won't actually be motivated to create it. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, if I don't continue telling myself how fat I am, then I'm never going to do the exercise and I'm never going to go on the diet and I'm never going to be motivated to create the change in my life.
Right.
So it's where I think and my attachment to the fear aspect or that part of me that's keeping me motivated, quote, for those that are not watching this and listening, I'm just doing little quotations with my hands, that somehow pleasure is not going to offer me the motivation that it takes to be successful. Right. That somehow the only thing that's really going to get things done and the only thing that's going to push me along is something that's going to really make me feel like crap about myself so that I am going to make the movements that I need to make. And when we were talking about it earlier,
No, hustling, shaming, self-judgment. Those are going to be the fuel to light your fire, to light our fire.
Right. And in some ways, it does work for a while, right? It
Yeah.
does. In some ways, I get on that diet, but does it leave lasting results? No, it can't.
And
The
also, even if it does, you might not be experiencing a life that is pleasurable for you. So
right.
even if it does lead, even if it works forever, which is not common, but even if it
Yeah,
does,
I was going to say, I don't even feel that. Maybe, who knows?
there are people on, specific things that they choose for themselves that it works for a long term. Maybe if it doesn't work forever, but I know people who things work for them for 20 years or 30 years or whatever it is, but they're
Right.
not necessarily experiencing, they might be experiencing the pleasure of consistency and stuff like that, but they might not be experiencing the pleasures that could happen where they can be intuitive and natural and still have those same results.
Pleasure is an experience of something that we get to choose and we get to have in the way that it is. So it's true. Fear does work for a while and it could definitely feed the illusion for a while, but it's not the way that it has to be. And that's the
Yeah.
point here.
Right. And feels like there's this illusion of a life beyond obligation would mean me falling into indulgence that is not responsible. It would mean me not getting my act together. It would mean me not really being able to pull the thread through. It would be me not waking up in the morning when I need to wake up, because what would be the point? And I think that this possibility in the universe that we're offering is the possibility of responsibility, like the ability to respond, literally, beyond obligation. What is the possibility of responsibility beyond obligation? And to me, that is so exciting because it feels like a whole new world. It feels like the more beautiful world that my heart knows is possible, to be able to have the balance of both. And my question is that I'm sure so many people ask, how do I bridge that gap? How do I get there? And I think the first thing is allowing yourself to grieve, forgive, and release what you did when you didn't know. Because we did what we did when we know what we knew. And then when we know better, we do better, as Maya Angelou says. And it's really important to allow ourselves to really grieve that which we didn't know. Because we might have, because what keeps us stuck often is that I've done this for so many years. I feel so ashamed that I didn't know better. And that doesn't allow us to actually motivate ourselves to grow. So when we can allow some grief for that and allow that feeling to move through our body and release that, whatever that looks like for you, go do a breathwork session, sit in a meditation, have a reckoning with God, yell into a pillow, move yourself from a contracted state to a more expansive state. The next thing I will say is everything that you do from contraction, you can do from expansion. I'll say that again. Everything that you do from a state of contraction, you could do from a state of expansion.
And I would think even more.
Yes, but it's just a matter yes, for sure. But it's just a matter of looking at life through that lens. So that's the way that I look at it. I'm like, okay, I can either get out of bed and my alarm rings. I slept longer. Usually I wake up before my alarm. So I'm just painting a picture. My alarm rings. Oh my goodness. I usually wake up at 7 before my alarm, but just in case my alarm is set for 8, I wake up, I jump out of bed, I pull on an outfit, quickly brush my teeth, go downstairs, make a coffee, slide into my desk, let's say, or I could take 30 more seconds, stretch out of bed, turn on a song as I brush my teeth a little bit more slowly, look in the mirror when I'm doing it so I could be like, hello, I'm awake. Feel my feet on the ground as I walk on the carpet from my bed to the thing. Take one extra second to choose the sweater that I really want to wear, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you're doing the same thing. It's just choosing a more expansive state. Now, how do we move from states of contraction to states of expansion? I call it like a tool agnostic, because I'm actually not someone who's going to tell you to use the same tool for each person. every person has different tools. And that's why I love to learn so many tools and use so many different tools with different people, because every single person has a different way in to states of expansion. And some people go in one way, some people go in another way. It's important to widen our ability of what's It's important to practice new ones. If there's only two that you have, get used to another one. Like get used to more. But we all have the ability to move into states of expansion. So whether that's taking some breath, journaling a little bit, morning pages, eating foods that open our body instead of close our body. There's some foods that make us more inflamed. There's some foods that make us feel more light, food of light. There's all different kinds of external and internal ways that we can do that, right? Buy ourselves something that we love so we can feel the pleasure of that for a moment. That would be an external way. If we do that every day, we might not have anything left in our bank account, right? So that's important not to do every day. But internally, what could be something that you could say to yourself that's kind to yourself that day instead of self-deprecating? And basically, it's learning, I'm in a state of contraction. I get to feel through my contractions and see how often I can be, even in the same circumstance, creating more expansion in each and every moment. And when we do that, we become an electromagnetic magnet towards more of that, So that's when things start getting really fun. It's not when we shift anything on the outside. It's not like when we all of a sudden, we hustle really hard and we make more money and then we're expansive. Or someone gives us a compliment and goes, oh my God, Rivky, you're so good at what you do. And then you're expansive. No, you light your own fire. You're like this you create inner generation toward more and more vitality. Then you start attracting more of that, which then causes you motivation to create more of that. So you can begin moving from states of contraction to expansion exactly where you are, not using any tool that anybody told you, but using whatever tools work for you. Now, if we spiritually bypass, which means that we feel a feeling of contraction and we right away move to an experience of expansion, then what happens is that we create dead matter in our field because there's something that wasn't dealt with. So it's important to move to states of expansion while feeling our way through contraction. So my favorite way of feeling a contraction is that I notice a feeling in my body or in my field. Let's say you're around someone and you feel dense energy, or you feel a little bad about yourself, or you feel hopeless or helpless. My favorite thing is to turn that feeling, that contraction up 100%. And I do this in my business all the time as well, with clients as well. Turn it up 100%. Let yourself fully experience it as a sensation. If instead of turning it down, turn it up 100%. Feel the disgust, feel the sadness, feel the grief, let it move through you. It could be a big somatic release, and it could just be, you could look like you're sitting in meditation. You don't even have to release it. Just really allow yourself to feel it and then choose something more expansive. And that's how you make sure that you're not bypassing. And what happens then is that you're going to start experiencing your business as pleasure. You're going to start experiencing what is your business, which is your business, your work, but also your children, your body, your health, your whatever it is, anything that's your business. Your life is your business.
When they say mind your own business, everything that falls in that category, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And you will start experiencing the pleasure that gets to move through your field, your body, your awareness in doing that. So that's like a more practical way to support people in moving into that space.
That sounds so beautiful. And it just sounds like it starts with the question, right? Like when you wake up in the morning, if I can do this both in a contracted state and an expansive state, which state do I want to choose? And with that, what's my possibility of getting there? What could support that? What could support allowing myself to have the same experience just from the perspective of expansion versus contraction? And I think that's what a beautiful invitation and what a beautiful way to consider, and what a beautiful way to be in every moment as a moment is happening. Because I might have woke up and chose contraction in that moment, but then further in my day, I'm confronted with another thing. And again, I can ask myself this question. I can keep asking this question again and again, because every moment is new and every moment is a new creation. And every moment I'm faced with the opportunity and the choice to invite the pleasure in and create my business as pleasure, or to stay in contraction, which might be what it is. Sometimes I just want to be pissed. And sometimes I just want to be like really mad. And that's okay. It's okay. It's not, there is no bad or good here. It's just opening the space for the possibility of recognizing that we are in the power of choice and that we could have something that we really desire if we want to choose it.
Yeah. And I'll add even more nuance to that. There is never, I will say something like radical. There is never a time where you get to be pissed. Like, you are not pissedness. You get to feel pissed. And that's what I think, like, and you are not your business. You get to be the awareness of your business. You get to run your business. And this is when things start to get really fun. It's like when your identity has nothing to do with your feelings, nothing to do with anything you've ever created, nothing to do with your secretest mistakes that you are so embarrassed about that you never want to tell anybody, and nothing to do with your favorite things about yourself that you think are the best about you. And we all have all of those things, every single one of us. It makes us human. And it's when none of that gets to touch the core of who we are, then we get to be in service. We get to feel our feelings without becoming them. You know, yesterday I was feeling something really challenging, and I was telling our friend Simi this morning, because I spoke to her for a few minutes while I was getting ready for my day. And I was telling her about the feeling that I had. And she's like, I'm so glad that you went into medicine without medicine, just with that feeling. I'm sure that was great. And I said, yeah, it's so cool. Doing this work means that none of my feelings are personal. They don't make me feel I'm a bad, quote unquote, practitioner or leader because I'm feeling something that is challenging. I'm still feeling that feeling, but that doesn't mean that it's who I am. So I get to allow that feeling for as long as it's there without it pulling me into contracted states that make me think all kinds of thoughts about myself as a practitioner, that make me feel unworthy or hopefully I'm not perfect at it, but it's a work in progress. But that's the coolest thing about this identity work. And I feel the minute it shifts, which it could take years, but then it happens in a second, you recognize that you are the esteemed self under the self-esteem that you hold. You recognize that you are the you no matter what happened. Your business becomes so pleasurable. It's so pleasurable, and I want to hear your thoughts on it, which is sometimes pleasure can be another illusion. It can look like we're having so much fun, and it can look like things are so pleasurable, but really it's like a distraction, because it's almost like pleasure becomes an identity for some people. It's like, instead of the art being channeled through from our soul, it's like art becomes who we are. And then it becomes like another illusion. And I want you to speak. Well, I'm curious to hear more of your thoughts about that, because we touched.
Yeah, it came up in our Artist Way group this morning, which I thought was so fascinating, where it's like abundance versus scarcity, where actually sometimes abundance can be scarcity. Abundance can be scarcity that's disguised as abundance, where, we are working so much towards the things that we love and desire that we're so caught up in our artistic expression, let's say. Yeah. But really, that's keeping us away from a different pleasure that we desire even more deeply and even more vulnerably, which might mean, I don't know, intimacy in relationship. But that one's so hard to really allow myself to receive that level of abundance, that I should be so abundant that I should be allowed to have an intimate relationship that means the world to me, that I'll distract myself with something else that I love to do and that's so wild and so self-expressed and so out there of my personal art expression. But actually, when I'm getting super, super deeply honest with myself, it's really another way that I'm keeping myself from the thing that I desire even more deeply, and the pleasure that I really want even more deeply, but still have work around allowing myself to actually have it. So really, again,
1,000,000%.
Yeah. And again, to really create business that is pleasure, as pleasure in the way that we're talking about. So again, that's the thing that's deepest inside of ourselves. That's the honesty, because the entire world can reflect whatever algorithm I'm putting out. And they will tell me, what do you mean, Fani? You're the most expressed person that I know. You let yourself lean into every single desire that you desire. And so the whole world can tell me what it is that I want to hear, that keeps me away from an even deeper desire that is here, that I might not be willing to allow to myself because I don't feel worthy, or I'm shying away from, or I'm afraid I'm going to feel misunderstood in, or whatever it is. So I'll create this whole illusion and disguise around it by being the most expressed person that I could ever be. So it's just,
Totally.
it gets more and more nuanced and more honest and more real, which means the pleasure gets even deeper and the pleasure gets even more profound. The layers and layers of what we're willing to go into the depths of the foundation of what's holding all of this up, because again, it's like when we realign into deeper honesty, the algorithm is going to reflect more and more pleasure towards us. And we're the ones who know, because the whole world is going to tell you what you want to hear, because that's how it works. Because if whatever you're feeding the social media platform, the algorithm's going to spit it back to you exactly how you want it. Whatever you're feeding the chat GPT, it's going to tell it to you how you want to see it, until you're willing to get more honest with it. And when you do, and you get more vulnerable, it takes vulnerability to really allow yourself that level of pleasure. It takes vulnerability to allow yourself that level of intimacy and that level of fulfillment and enjoyment and satisfaction. It really does. Yeah. But we're worthy. We're definitely worthy.
And I'll end with the story because it's like you're reminding me of something so interesting. There was this woman who, I saw it a few times last night. There was this woman who had recently, after such a long time of waiting, gotten engaged, and she's in this beautiful relationship with a really special person. And it was so cool to see her. She was working on receiving like what was already there. And it's so much easier, especially in people who are healing or in therapeutic spaces, that it's so much easier for them to be vulnerable about their crying. Oh, I'm so broken. I'm so sad. I'm so, all those things. But to be able to lean back and receive and be led and be in their joy and be seen in their pleasure is so much more vulnerable. And the world says, oh my God, that person, the world could say, that person's so not vulnerable. They're always so happy, when happiness could be such a vulnerability for some people, and to be such an edge, like such an edge. And I saw last night the specific woman, she spent the night reckoning, and then she opened up the channels for receiving, and she let herself have the fact that she was and is chosen in this way, and it feels so good. And it was so meaningful to witness because it was a miracle. It was like she could have so easily not done that work, and for the next 20 years found reasons why there's something wrong with her or something wrong with him for choosing her.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Because that's how deeply our receptors need to be developed and allowed and opened up for, And I saw that. I saw it so clearly. I saw this older woman who is unsatisfied, like an option of another timeline of an older woman who's unsatisfied, and he always doesn't do whatever, take out the garbage in the way that I want to, and like focused on like the things that were like, so, because like couldn't just let herself have what she has. Yeah. I see that so often. Some people have actual real challenges, but there are some people with exceptional spouses, and they find problems inside of their spouse because they cannot fully believe that they are worthy of receiving who is in their life just the way that person is. And I feel this is a great way to end.
Yes. Wow. What a wild topic. I'm so glad that we jumped in and took it wherever it took us. So thanks for being here with us. Thanks for being on our flow and trusting in our trust in our channeling of whatever's meant to come through. And till next time.
We are so humbled and delighted to have you with us. Our podcast is Real Life in Real Time, where we embark on curious conversations that expand our awareness and capacity for all that is possible.
The Possibility of the Universe podcast is only possible because of you, our audience. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks so much for being here, and thanks so much for listening. I'm Chani. First and foremost, I am a believer. I am a wife. I am a mother of 6 beautiful children, and I am the owner of Grassroots Brooklyn, an experiential art collective and floral atelier. I am also a life coach working with both individuals and couples to empower them to step into all of their own possibilities in this universe. You can find me on Instagram at Macomb Sanctuary and on my website, www.grassrootsbklyn.com.
Hi, I'm Rivky, and I love life. I love heart-centered living. I love to be curious, and I love to connect with all things. I started off as a social worker and developmental therapist, and now I work as a somatic and subconscious practitioner using modalities such as somatic healing, breathwork, bodywork, hypnotherapy, and some really magical and incredible quantum healing technologies. I work with individuals, couples, run retreats and courses using these modalities to help people find the most freedom, presence, aliveness, and embodiment inside of their lives. The ways to contact us are through my website, rivkygross.com. That is spelled RIVKY dash, the straight line dash, gross, GROSS.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Chani at Macomb Sanctuary, and myself at Rivky Gross. We are here for any and all questions and feedback through the contact form on the website, and we're so looking forward to hearing from you.